Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every morning by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Be sure to tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking, get your questions in. We're going to get to those here in a little bit. We also have two special guests today. Not only is it Hump Day with Hills, but we also have Tom Luginbill joining us later in the show as well. So we got an action-packed episode of Coffee and Football for you. But first, guys, let's look at the big news that went down yesterday. Texas got a little deeper, I guess, defensively yesterday. Bobby, I'm going to let you start.
I feel like I'm doing my Dr. Evil little commentary here with my fingers because that's what Steve Sarkisian and the personnel department staff at the University of Texas right now is doing. They're playing Dr. Evil in the portal. They brought in 4 portal visitors this spring, and now they've signed all 5 of them. I want to add to this part of it. All 5 of them, Jerry, didn't take a second visit after they visited Texas. The latest being Murad Watson, freshman All-American defensive tackle out of Syracuse, had the 3rd highest run stoppage grade of any freshman defensive lineman in the country. Played the most number of snaps as a true freshman of any defensive lineman in the country at Syracuse a year ago. A guy that Longhorns identified and have attracted from the portal. He is signed with the University of Texas to go alongside Levon Johnson, starting defensive tackle at Maryland, as well as Jack Andrews, the starting tight end at Cal. Emmett Mosley V, starting wide receiver at Stanford, and Mason Shipley, a kicker that hit a 60-yarder a year ago at Texas State. Those are the 5 portal visitors. Brandon Harris, those guys, John Michael Jones, all of them doing work right now in the portal for the University of Texas. Just that entire staff really, frankly, kind of showing people how it should be done, Jerry, if you want to know the truth. Texas has added 5 starter-level players in 9 days.
Yeah.
What else are you supposed to say to that? 5 starter-level players in 9 days. Portal only opened a week ago today.
Yeah, closes in 2 days, by the way. So look, one of the things we wanted to get Tom Luginbill on the show later is he's one of the ACC network play-by-play guys. So we wanted to get his thoughts on Murad Watson, Jack Andrews, and Emmett Mosley, seeing all those guys, and also talk at Texas NFL draft, college football as a whole. On Murad Watson, look, I was already on record as saying Texas was going to be better against the run on the interior this year versus last year. Now, I don't think there's any question about it. I mean, like, Cole Brevard and Murad Watson are really, really good run defenders. And Murad Watson has enough disruption as a run defender in the run game. Travis Shaw, I mean, look, and I want to say this, just because Texas has I want to be clear on something. Just because Texas has taken 5 guys out of the portal, that doesn't mean they don't like the guys that were already there. Travis Shaw, Alex January's had a really good spring. Melvin Hills can be developed into a good rotational player. And Texas loves the 2 freshmen, Myron Charles and Josiah Sharma. But they're freshmen in Texas. Plan is to play 17 games next year. And so I just wanted to put that out there. This has nothing to do with, this Texas not like one of the portal guys they took early. Nope, not the case at all. They like all these guys, but they're solidifying what should be a tremendous rotation and the ability to have no drop-off stopping the run within your rotation, if possible. That is the whole key. Stop the run, stop the run, stop the run first with all these guys. And I'm just telling you, this isn't hype. They like Josiah Sharma and Myron Charles. It doesn't matter how much you see of them on the field this year. They love those 2 guys. And they love Justice Terry, but Justice Terry's going to play that Barron Sorrell position before he grows into an interior guy. I just want to put all that out there because I know people are asking, well, what does that mean for Travis Shaw? What does that mean for this guy, this guy? They like all these guys.
Dude, they want to run their vision. I was talking to somebody this morning. Their vision is to run out there what Georgia ran out there, Jerry. let's just do five for five,
Yep.
and not miss a beat.
Yep.
When we rotate in. If you're going to do that, you need starter level players.
Yes.
And that's exactly what they've done. I mean, all five of those defensive tackles they recruited, I guess Hero Canoe may not have been labeled as a starter at Ohio State.
Right.
But 4 of the 5 labeled as a starter at their particular school coming in.
Yeah. And the other good thing that I need to mention, and I failed to mention when I was talking a second ago, is the great thing about
time out. Miracle Martinez, you just brisket and egg taco right now. Come on, that's illegal. That go ahead now. I'm sorry, Jerry. I did not mean to interrupt you, but when a man gets my heart, a man gets my heart.
Wow. David Rawls he went right where I was going with this next comment. What Texas did in the portal and the interior D line is they right now, and the chances are somebody will transfer out of college football, right? You have 9 guys at that position. Only 2 are out of eligibility after this year. So there's something to be said for that as well, which means in the 26 high school class, maybe you only take 2 instead of having to take 3 or 4. We'll see what happens. Probably 3, but maybe just 2. And a 5-tech type of guy is your third. But what that does with Murad Watson, Lavon Johnson is they aren't 1-year guys. Hero Canoe, not a 1-year guy. The only 2 guys that are out of eligibility after this season are Cole Brevard and Travis Shaw. So it's built for multiple years now as well. And it really, in talking to somebody last night, it really is kind of fun for those guys in the building to think about if the majority of those guys return. Alex January is a junior, Murad Watson as a junior, Lavon Johnson as a senior, Melvin Hill's a rotational guy, and Myron Charles and Josiah Sharma going into year 2. And you don't know where Justice Terry's by. So this year, it's fun to talk about, but I think they're just as excited about next year with that group.
Yes. And the same goes with Emmett Mosley, right? Jack Indries is possibly a 2-year guy.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I are on the same page, Jerry. I think that I wrote this article this morning, and I'd said this, and we talked about it, and I tried to tell people that Texas was going to be highly aggressive in the portal. And I think people didn't really take me at my word at some level, or didn't understand what I was getting at with highly aggressive. Like, highly aggressive would have been, they've got 3 commitments right now. Right, Jerry?
Yeah.
Not 5. And not high-ranking guys necessarily. You know what I mean? There would have been more give and take. We told you that Texas was going to be very opportunistic and very aggressive. I think that Texas could still be even more aggressive in the portal. I don't think they will be necessarily this week as we see what happens with their own possible portal players from Texas elsewhere. That's going to happen, okay? And inevitably, it's already happened twice with Bert Auburn and Malik Agbo at this point. But my point being, I don't think Texas is done in the portal necessarily. And I know a lot of people are like, what? But look, I've said it before. They are going to try to win a national championship this year. That means they're not going to leave any stone unturned, period. And so as we look at this, I'm amazed, not that they went out and were so aggressive, because I thought they were going to be that aggressive, Jerry. I am amazed, having been a long time viewer of recruiting, not necessarily the portal transfer. It's only 4 or 5 years old. But I'm amazed at how strategic and how they actually connected the dots, right? It's not so much that they went after the right guys or those guys. It's how they connected the dots. Not a single one of these guys, the 5 guys that they've signed, took another visit to another school after they visited Texas. They struck while the iron was hot. They got after it. They identified their guys and got it done. And that's rare. Look, Ask Oklahoma how that feels right now. Ask Florida State how it feels. Ask Georgia, who's visiting. It just doesn't work this way in real life. The dots don't get connected. There's, something happens between the here and there. Not with Texas, not in this portal season. 5 guys in 9 days. All starters at other schools. Just tremendous job, in my opinion, by Texas.
Yeah, some people are kind of talking about Texas having the number 1 portal class. They won't do that because they don't sign enough guys.
They don't sign 20 guys like Texas Tech.
I mean, Texas Tech has a portal class. I mean, and I don't think their portal class is as good as Ole Miss a year ago. Ole Miss's portal class a year ago was like a lot of guys and a lot of really good players that are going to be drafted. So Texas just doesn't have that many, 10 guys out of the portal. They're not up in that 15, 16 range. So, but the quality of the class is tremendous. But Blake, we need to probably hit on after our advertising. We got to talk a little Jonah Williams here. We have a lot of questions in the chat.
Yeah, we'll do that. Hey, thank you, Jerry and Blake, and thank you to Adam Lowy over at the Lowy Law Firm. Look, Wednesday's Coffee and Football has been brought to you now for more than a year by Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, and think you might be due compensation, all you have to do is reach out to LowyLawFirm.com. Adam and his team will give you a free, no strings attached consultation to see if they think you might be due some level of compensation. Again, LowyLawFirm.com. You see his billboards all around Austin, in the arena, over at Texas. He's a big supporter of UT Athletics. Thank you very much for supporting On Texas Football as well, Adam. Again, LowyLawFirm.com. Appreciate you, Adam.
That's right. And before we talk about Jonah Williams, we had a lot, since we're still talking about the portal, we've had a lot of people ask, where does Texas go from here, or where you would like to see them go from here? So I'm going to let y'all address that before we talk baseball.
And they're speaking specifically about the portal, correct?
Yes, correct.
So look, I think that for the first time, Texas has to sit back and wait a little bit in the portal. And they can still be opportunistic, don't get me wrong, but they need to see who enters the portal. If anybody enters the portal from Texas over the next 48 hours, because that's really where it's at. I don't think there's anybody scheduled to visit. All right. There's nobody scheduled to visit Texas today, to my knowledge, from a portal perspective. So I think Texas is taking a very, they're waiting to see what exactly happens. They're not, Texas is not dumb. Things can happen they don't expect. So got to wait on that. And then I think they'll probably go back at it next week if based on what happens this weekend and this week. So that's where it's at right now. I don't expect them to bring anybody in today, for example. Yeah. Now, all things could change. One guy goes in the portal. If a great player goes in the portal and they think he's a great player, they're going after him. I got news for y'all. If you haven't learned that yet from the University of Texas and how they react and what Steve Sarkisian likes to do. But I think that's where Texas is at right now. A little bit of a wait and see to see if they need to address anything additional. We'll see where we'll get more inkling, I think, of which way they might go next week sometime. But I don't expect them to be, quote unquote, done. I'll put it that way. They're not, in their view, I think what I'm trying to communicate to everybody is, in their view, done is not an operable word. Because as long as they can build to create a better team, they're going to keep doing it.
There you go. Okay, here. Let's see. Well, Jerry, I am going to talk a little baseball. Texas State and Texas squared off yesterday in San Marcos. Texas ends up coming from behind to win that one 14-11. And yes, a lot of people asking about two sports stars.
A grand slam in the ninth inning.
Yes.
Texas hit a grand slam in the ninth inning to win that game.
Yeah. Gal Vaughn worked the count, man, and got on base and set that whole thing up. He loaded the bases, but man, he worked that count and set up that grand slam.
Awesome. Yeah, it was an awesome hit, no doubt about that. But one thing that Texas fans saw is that Jonah Williams came out of the game a little early, fellas, and a lot of people have been asking about him. And I was told this morning that it looks like he's going to be okay. So, I don't know if they may rest him this week. I have no idea. That's still up in the air, but he will be okay. He's not out for the season or anything like that. So sounds like all is well.
Having seen it, it looked like, and I'm glad you did some checking on it this morning for us, Blake, and got some feedback. It looked like a soft tissue injury. It didn't look like an ACL or shoulder that would need any kind of surgery. It looked very soft tissue oriented.
Yeah, definitely. So I think you can rest easy, knowing that you'll see Jonah again very soon. No doubt about it. In the outfield, we've also had a lot of people asking about if he will pitch, but I was told again this morning that there are no plans as of right now because he's doing so well in the outfield. And then let's see here. We've had a lot of people ask why Texas State always gives Texas trouble, and I want to address that as well because you got to remember Texas is number one in the country, and Texas State is pitching like we're in the World Series, whereas Texas is pitching to rest their pitchers. And so these midweek games, they don't, not say they don't mean a lot, but they don't mean a lot in the grand scheme of things when you have solid weekend series week in and week out here in the SEC. So just something to keep in mind going forward, but see what happens. All right, let's talk recruiting, Jerry. What do you have for us? Because I know you got some news posted over on Texas Football.
Yeah, so a couple of visitors were in town yesterday, kind of through today. Justice Fitzpatrick, the 4-star plus corner out of St. Thomas Aquinas. That's the younger brother of Minka Fitzpatrick, the star safety in the NFL. He will also be back to Texas June 13th, 15th for an official visit. This is his first ever visit to Texas. Texas continues to expand that map in the state of Florida, by the way. They have a lot of guys coming in this weekend, which we have that list on Texas Football. And then Zayden Crimpin, the interior offensive line prospect out of Prosper. He wants to play tackle in college. I think SMU, Michigan, some others are maybe recruiting him more at tackle. So we'll see what happens there. They were on campus yesterday. Today, there may be a few other guys kind of trickle through on Thursday before the big weekend, but we 5-star visitor has been added, and we're about to play the film, but I think one of the very, very best. And I don't care, look, we have him as a 5-star prospect. I think he's one of the top 10, 15 prospects in the country in 2026. Derek Cooper out of Chaminade Madonna in Hollywood, Florida. You can see the Fort Lauderdale airport from the practice field almost. He is coming in with his mom and stepdad this weekend. And this is one that the Shard Choice was working on in January, went by the school. Then they transitioned to Chad Scott. Chad Scott's been in contact with him. And Derek Cooper, one of the best two-way players in high school football. When you watch this tape, always remember that unless you're at the first 3 series of the game, this dude's tired. He plays running back, he plays safety, he plays special teams. He plays the whole game for the state, for Chaminade Madonna. A guy that was one time committed to Georgia. I think Georgia is the favorite. Miami's 2, Ohio State's 3 headed into the month of May, into this visit. But he's been open to Texas. He kind of grew up playing against Diabell, knows Diabell, talks to Diabell, knows Jamie French from 7 on 7. But more importantly than all that, Derek Cooper has been open to the idea of Texas. Again, one-time commitment to Georgia during his sophomore year early on. He played his first 2 high school seasons at Cardinal Gibbons in Fort Lauderdale before transferring over to Chaminade Madonna. But I think the guy's a tremendous football player, really good running back. And look, I think one of the things about him, Bobby, is he hasn't carried the ball a lot because he plays both ways the whole game. He only carried it 124 times in 15 games last year. Because he's going to play all over the field. He's going to do whatever it takes to win football games. And somewhat similar to Cedric Baxter, early on, he played more safety as like a freshman in high school as a varsity player than he did running back. So he's not a guy that has a ton of – Christian Clark was the same way, by the way. He's not a guy that has a ton of carries, but he is a damn good player. He is one of the best football prospects in America.
He's got acceleration, Jerry.
Watch him close on this. Watch him close on that play right there.
He can turn and run, which is fairly rare for a running back. Look, I think that the reality of it is that he has that acceleration that Sark is going to covet.
Yeah.
I think he's big. I think he takes on tacklers well physically. There's a reason why I think the two best that I've seen, and Texas is recruiting them both, are Derek Cooper and Xavier Crowell out of Alabama. I mean, those are the two best I've seen from a prototypical running back perspective. Now, maybe somebody else is out there that's a great player, and I just haven't seen him. But I don't know what to say. I mean, I was talking to somebody this morning about Texas and recruiting, and they're just on the right dudes, man.
Yes.
I mean, at the end of the day, you bring in 40 guys and 15 to 20 of them aren't the right guys, and you end up signing 5 to 10 of those not the right guys. It's not a good recruiting class.
Yeah.
The thing that's changed so fundamentally over the last 3 or 4 years with Texas is they just bring in the right guys. I mean, and then if your hit rate on that group is 40% or whatever a normal hit rate would be, you're Katie bar the door, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're doing what you need to do, and so bringing in a guy like Derek Cooper, I mean, come on.
Hey, for those that aren't familiar with Florida high school football,
Look at that. Did you see that acceleration through the hole, dude?
Yeah, and he's got leg drive. He's got all of it. I'd love to see the guy just play running back for a full game without having to play safety, run around the field on special teams, see what he'd look like.
Hey, Jerry, you brought him to us 6 months ago.
Yeah, I was down at American Heritage, and I was talking to somebody that I've known in the business. He's on the college scouting service side for a while, and we were talking about guys in South Florida, and we both started talking about. I just watched Derek Cooper's huddle, just in case I was looking at other kids, in case I had time to go see some kids, even if Texas wasn't recruiting him at the time. And I thought this guy was just phenomenal. And that guy said, "Hey, man, that guy ain't the best running back in the country. Somebody's got to show me." And he was talking about it because he lives in Fort Lauderdale in that area. He said he just hadn't played a lot of running back because his teams have needed him everywhere. But this too, if you're watching this and aren't familiar with high school football in Florida, they're playing high level competition. You saw that big A, that St. Thomas Aquinas. He played against Justice Fitzpatrick. All those guys played against Cardinal Gibbons. Has played against American Heritage. I think that Stranahan, who's really talented. They play high level, even though they're a smaller school. Their non-district schedule and then their playoff schedule is really good. Somebody said he looks faster than Ced Baxter. He is faster than Ced Baxter. This kid, Derek Cooper, ran 10.7 this year, fully automatic time, and he struggled with his starts. They thought he was going to run in the high 10.5s, but he struggled with his starts a little bit this year, and I think he had a couple of DQs maybe as well. So he didn't – I think he might even be 100-meter time, might even be a little faster than what he showed this year. He just doesn't really train for track like a lot of kids in Texas do, but tremendous football player. I love all four of the running backs Texas is in on at this point. I mean, Derek Cooper, Xavier Crowell, KJ Edwards, and Amari Latimer, who's now scheduled to officially visit Texas in June. If they can secure an official visit out of Derek Cooper this weekend, then look, if you get two of those four running backs, you're tickled in a class, man.
Good stuff.
What do you think of this guy, Blake?
I like him, man. I like him.
You like guys that are fast and can run through tackles?
Hey, yeah, definitely. And I know one thing: if Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton like him, then you gotta like him. So you can't go wrong there.
I want to add another big visitor. There's a few this weekend, but Trenton Henderson, the edge out of Pensacola Catholic. Texas has never recruited a Pensacola player. They did. I mean, Trent Richardson way back in the day, but this is new territory for Texas. He's making his first unofficial visit, and he's one of the top edge prospects in the country. He's got a full boat of official visits in June right now, but so did Dre Quinn, and then Dre Quinn immediately shuffled his visits and locked in Texas June 13th through 15th. Trenton Henderson, we've watched him on here before. One of the top edge prospects in the country. He's coming in this weekend. Kendall Gerville out of Fort Myers, one of the top D tackles in the country. These guys are making their first ever visits to Texas. Vodney Cleveland, the D lineman out of Birmingham. Parker is really good. Tico Crittenden, the 4-star D lineman out of Lithonia there in the Atlanta area. Camden Hamil, the corner out of the Phoenix area, who I think is a stud. Brody Jennings, I believe, from Mandarin, teammate of Jamie French, Michigan committed corner, scheduled to make his first unofficial visit to Texas. I mean, this is a big weekend. Preston Carey, Jake Krull from IMG, number of guys. There's 10 plus really talented 4-star or above level players that are making their first ever visits to Texas this weekend. And this, I say that, and I'm a broken record, but it was this time last year when Jamie French, Myron Charles, Josiah Sharma came on campus for the first time, along with Grayson Littleton and Zealous Hicks, but Hicks was a 27 at the time, and Texas didn't offer Littleton until late in the process. But French, Charles, Sharma, they were all on campus for the first time right about now, a little bit before, a couple of weeks before, and it really kick-started those recruitments.
They're good. You just mentioned a name that is worth mentioning, Jerry. Grayson Littleton. Yeah. Put a little asterisk next to his name, guys, is what I'm being told. Just put a little asterisk next to his name. I'm not saying he's going to play this year or start or this year, but put him in your good category, if you know what I mean. Likely to make a dent at Texas before his time's done. Grayson Littleton.
We got a question here from Living Rent Free. The answer is yes. Braden Rouse, the linebacker out of Marietta Kell High School in the Atlanta area, was on campus last weekend. I think Texas has a real shot to get an OV out of him, and he already plays for the Longhorns. So, god dang, what's the problem here? He already wears the Kell Longhorns jersey. For those that aren't familiar with high school football in Atlanta and mascots. All right, it's time for church.
It almost is time for church. First, it's time to pay a couple of bills.
Do I get to read Mando for Tony?
Tony Heels. I don't have a commercial that'll make anybody blush, but I do need to tell everyone out there about Cure. It's a plant-based hydrating electrolyte drink mix with no added sugar. It's natural, delicious, and it's a convenient way to keep you and your whole family hydrated, but without the artificial stuff. And I'm very selective on what I put in my body, so Cure is right up my alley. It's made with clean ingredients, which means you stay healthy and you stay energized, but without the crash. Hydration is key to feeling your best, and Cure makes it easier than ever. I drink it every single morning to start my day, usually right here on Coffee and Football. In fact, I got it right beside me. It tastes great, and they offer 7 amazing flavors that you're going to love. It's also convenient. You can take it with you anywhere. Each bag contains 14 on-the-go packets that you just dump in a bottle of water and shake it up, and you're ready to rock and roll. And hydration goes beyond just drinking water. It's about replenishing the electrolytes we lose through sweat, sleep, alcohol, and other daily activities. Water alone isn't enough to do the job. That's why you have to try Cure. It's the electrolyte drink mix that tastes as amazing as it makes you feel. And for OTF listeners, Cure is offering 20% off your first order. Stay hydrated, feel your best by visiting curehydration.com/OnTexas and then use promo code OnTexas at checkout. Again, that's curehydration.com/OnTexas and use code OnTexas for 20% off your first order.
I'll bring him in.
Go ahead. All right,
Tony,
we're going to bring
it's Tony Hill's time. Tony, so I got 2 questions. The first question, which you don't need the answer, you just need to think about. What ad read on our show would go really good with Blake Monroe's shirt he's wearing? 1 and 2. It's a day before the draft, man. What were the emotions? What were you going through mentally and physically before draft day?
Well, listen. First and foremost, before I get into any of those questions, we have to acknowledge the fact that I've realized the segments on these shows and how they roll. See, Bobby is the information. So anytime there's an informational read like the Lowy Law Firm, that's Bobby. Then Blake, he has the, health aspect and things of that nature. So that's his read. You are literally, Jerry, confined like balls and chest hairs. And I just don't think that that's fair. You know what I mean? So we can flip that, guys, at some point to see if Jerry is capable reading something that is not dealing with Manscaped I would love to see him be able to elevate his read game at some point in time. What's going on Texas football? It's your man, Tony the Tycoon. Let's jump into it. Look, here's what I'll say. I was extremely calm during draft day, guys. The reason being is because I believe the hype. I believe that when a certain coach in the San Diego Chargers back in the 2007, 2008 told me that, hey, man, sit back and relax for draft day. We're picking you at this particular round with this particular pick. Congratulations. You know where you're going. You're a great fit. We've run all the tape. We know what we're going to get with you. Excited to have you. Those were those exact words. And then draft day came. So you go to the first round. You're like, is there a chance? It's like, could I sneak in this joint? Okay, that doesn't happen. But that's okay because, you know, it happens, right? The second round comes. I'm like, oh, yeah. All right, well, let's just kind of sit back and say, oh, okay, he got drafted. Oh, that's interesting. You know, you kind of start to, you know, compare yourself to different guys. Round 3. All right, baby, this is my time. I'm getting ready to be a San Diego Charger. And in the third round, San Diego Chargers select Jacob Hester. Who the hell is Jacob Hester? Who is this? Wow. After that, you just start seeing people fly off the board and names calling. You're looking around. Your aunts and your uncles is like, oh, it's all right. It's going to be okay, nephew. You try to keep a strong face, but deep down inside, you're pissed. And now you get to the fourth round. And it's day 2 because in those times, you know, they only did the first round, you know, day 1, and then the other 3 rounds, day 2. So it's day 2. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, all right, well, we'll see what happens. And all of a sudden, I get this weird number from an area code that I've never seen in my entire life. And at first, I'm like, man, I don't answer spam. So I'm thinking about not answering it. Then I was like, you know what? Let me pick this up. Glad I did, because it just happens to be Colvin Colbert and Mike Tomlin. Mr. Hills, yes, sir. We're going to make you a Steeler. Let's go. And from there, it's just pure elation. Mom's happy. Brother's happy, everybody happy, man, and that team will forever, you know, have a special place in my heart because that was the team that made me a professional athlete. So a lot of lives are going to be changed come draft day, guys. And at the end of the day, I always say this, it doesn't matter where you go. It's about what you do when you get there. And I think that's the message that a lot of these guys have to grasp because I've outlasted longer than a lot of guys that were taken way before me. It's just about wanting it. And I think that once they experience the aspect of, okay, I'm in the league, make sure that you have a plan to understand how you're going to carve out your legacy in it.
Well, Tony, we got a super chat for you that was put in this morning. So I'm going to go ahead and read it to you here. It's from Jack. And he says, Preacher Tony, Mac Brown was on 3rd and Longhorn and talked about your recruitment. Your brother talked about how much it meant to him that Mac stood by you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I haven't watched the episode yet. I wanted to be able to sit down and watch that one. That's a special one, man. I'm happy for what Nick and those guys and Jay are doing at 3rd and Longhorn. Glad they were able to get Mac on. I'm glad Mac is back on the 40 acres. That's a great aspect to have to the university, and I'll be down there this weekend, so hopefully I can, give him a big hug and kiss Mama Sally and relive some of those stories. But yeah, no, when I got hurt, I don't know if a lot of people know my story, but when I got hurt, man, it was serious. I was paralyzed for about 6 months, and a lot of people didn't think I would walk normally again, much less alone play football. If they don't know my story, I was one of the top-rated tight ends in the nation and considered one of the best tight ends in the state of Texas. And I was also nominated to become a junior, although nobody is named Tony Hills. Somebody on this platform decided to make me a junior, so the world knows me as Tony Hills Jr. now. That's another story for another time. Don't give it away, somebody. Don't give it away. They don't know who it is. But all the scholarships that I had, gone, right? Because at the end of the day, if he can't the use for him. Mac Brown was the only one that said, hey, we recruited you not because of just the player you are, but because the character and the man that you are. And if you want to come to the University of Texas, we have a scholarship waiting on you. And it's kind of hard not to get emotional telling that story because he was a pivotal point in my journey to getting me to where I was. And that's a lot of that is where my affinity for the university comes from. Do I love the fans? Absolutely. Do I love what Austin has done for me and the opportunity that is given to me even after the game? Absolutely. I can never repay them back for that. But the reason why that university is special to my heart is because of that man. That man gave me the opportunity to become the player and the person and the man that I am today. Because as a youth, man, that's where you're raised. You're raised during those college times. That's when you find out what adversity is, and you got to stand on your own 2 feet as a man. You know, you can't call back home to mom and say, come save me. You got to understand what that means. And Mac molded us and guided us, as well as the coaching staff, on what it meant to do that. And football gave us that as well. So I'm so appreciative, not only for the university, for the friends that I've made and the coaches that I had, but Mac in particular for extending that olive branch and allowing God to use him to say your journey doesn't stop here. So I'm excited to hear the story and to hear it from his perspective. But that's what he means to me, what Mama Sally means to me. And that's from my perspective of everything that has happened up until that point.
Tony, thank you so much for joining us. I know it had to be a quick one today. We got Tom Luginbill lined up to go next. But, dude, your story about waiting on the draft, I think, is how a lot of Longhorns are in similar shoes to you. Yeah, there's 3 guys at Texas that are probably going to go in the first round here on Thursday night, right? But there's 11 others that are just trying to find their spot and waiting for that innocuous, never heard before area code calling them, right? And
Absolutely.
I think you find a lot of similarity to those guys. I appreciate you, Tony. Be safe driving, bud.
Hey, by the way, Tony will be there Saturday. If you're on the field, fan day, look for the guy who looks like he can still play in the NFL. And then just walk up and say, nice to meet you, Mr. Hills.
Absolutely.
Tony's driving down on Vaughn Lane, by the way. Coming down on Vaughn Lane. Be
hey,
good,
man, all you guys got to do is give me the address, man, and I'm there. Hook 'em, baby.
Hook 'em. Take care of yourself. Be safe. Tony Hills, always a good guy, man. Just always a positive attitude, working hard.
Yeah.
He's going to shame me on that junior story.
Yeah,
I literally wrote him up as Tony Hills Jr.
Yeah.
For his entire recruiting career. Okay. And he's not a junior. And he finally, like literally a year ago, he told me, Bobby, why did you do that? And I go, I don't know. I just thought you were. And he goes, I'll tell you why. And then we'll recount that story another time. We got to get to Tom Luginbill.
Time for another guest. We're going right to him. Tom Luginbill of ESPN, ACC Network. He's joining us via phone today. I think he's on his way to a spring game to watch his son play, college football player. But Tom, thanks for joining us, man. How are you?
I'm good, guys. Thanks for having me. Have you had your fill of coffee yet?
No. No.
Damn.
No. I've still got to have some more, Tom. Hey, thank you for joining us. I know you're making time. Good luck to your son. He's at Eastern Kentucky. Is that right?
Yeah. So this will be the first time I've actually gotten to see him in a college uniform in person. And so I asked off of my UFL duties this week to be able to head up. You know, my wife got to see him. He was the backup to a graduate senior last year. So he got to travel and go through all that routine and still able to redshirt. And so, my wife got to see a couple of games last year. I haven't been able to be around him much, so this is a real treat for me.
Cool. Yeah, that's got to be tough because that's your job to be somewhere else on weekends, essentially.
You know, it's interesting, guys. I think I saw 4 of his high school games, and I think back to when I was coming through high school and junior college, and my dad was a head football coach in college football at the time, and I remember getting ready to play for the junior college national championship, and it's Monday morning, and my dad just shows up on campus. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, well, they fired me. And I said, okay. And he goes, so that's the bad news. But the good news is I'm going to get to watch you play for a national championship this Saturday. And it was really the only game he had gotten to see all year.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Hey, Tom, Jerry mentioned this. You 2 years ago, you had the Big 12. So we had you on quite a lot to talk about the Longhorns and what you saw. This year, you got rotated over to the ACC. And Jerry adequately pointed out that you got a chance to see some of these new Longhorns. Texas has been very active in the portal, getting Emmett Mosley, the wide receiver, out of Stanford, the Cal tight end, Jack Indries, Levon Johnson, the defensive tackle out of Maryland, and most recently, Murad Watson, the defensive tackle out of Syracuse. I mean, really, Texas has gone portal shopping in the ACC.
Well, they have, and they've done it with really talented players that have multiple years of eligibility. I think that's the thing that's really important here. And I got a chance to see Emmett Mosley. He, Elik Ayomanor, who will get drafted this weekend, is a really, really good player. And after he had that year 2 years ago, all of a sudden, all the attention was placed on him. And here comes this freshman in Mosley that just rose to the occasion and just became a playmaker for Stanford as a true freshman. And they had to play a lot of them. Weren't a very good football team. And then the guy that I really like in that group is the defensive tackle. Watson is a real handful. And I think that, as we all know, where we place premiums on certain positions, and everybody's trying to find an offensive tackle, a rush end, a defensive tackle, a quarterback. There's just not that many of them out there. And so when one hits the market that you think is a potential difference maker, and you're a place like Texas where, really you have unlimited resources to compete when it comes to name, image, and likeness, you got some distinct advantages there. And I think that helped with Murad Watson.
You look at Murad Watson and all of these guys, Tom. Texas, you're talking about NIL and how well they have handled the portal. What do you think of the state of college football right now? I mean, is this house settlement going to do anything for us, or is it just kicking the can down the road?
Oh, you watch. They'll find a way to screw that up too. I can promise you that. Listen, I think it's an absolute mess. And what happened, what has it been, maybe close to 10 days ago now, with Nico Iamaleava at Tennessee was just an accident waiting to happen. It was inevitable. And I am hoping that it turns into something that creates a real positive for change and for legislation and a shift in terms of how this sport is doing business. Because if you ran an actual business the way this is being run, it would come crumbling to the ground. I mean, look at what's happening. If you took the NFL and you said, okay, Kansas City's got Patrick Mahomes, and after every single year, he's going to decide to just go out on the market and shop himself around. And every other player in the league has the ability to do the exact same thing. Or you're on an NFL roster and your team's out of playoff contention. So I think I'm just going to sit out. I'm going to opt out. No, you don't get to do those things. That's not how it works. And so the only way to get this corrected is going to be collectively bargaining and coming up with an agreement that serves both sides. But right now, this one-way highway of the players get everything and to hell with everything else, that's got to come to a stop. I thought Gino Auriemma, the UConn head women's basketball coach, said it best back in December. He said, how are we expected to recruit and coach players who they think we owe them everything and they owe us nothing? And that's exactly the world we're living in right now.
Yeah, it makes it tough. Some people would say, well, the shoe is finally on the other foot for college coaches who moved so evenly or so easily between schools. But to your point, it shouldn't have been that way in the first place either. Two wrongs don't make a right.
Well, and let's not forget too, and I agree with that, but I think the whole comparing coaches to kids, I look at it twofold. Number one, the coaches have buyouts. They lose something. Yeah. They have binding contracts with buyouts. All right. Can you do that in an NIL contract? Yes. Is it any player or their representative going to sign it? No. because right now everything benefits them with no rules, no deterrence, nothing. So you can talk about that from a player contract, but until it becomes something that is collectively bargained and agreed upon, then you're not going to see that. That's number one. And number two, and I understand that this is a new world with players and player freedom and an open market, but the open market works both ways. And we keep talking about, oh, well, the coaches can leave. And as I mentioned, they've got buyouts. But I don't also understand why we compare working adult professionals who, in most cases, not just have an undergrad degree, but have a master's degree, have worked professionally to put food on the table for their families, and might be 10, 15, 20, 30 years. Why are we comparing that person to a 19-year-old college student? And I'm not a get off my lawn guy when it comes to making money and players having the ability to make money. But we've got to make sure that what we're doing in all of this, first and foremost, is that the name, image, and likeness, which is based off of markability and value that is reflected in performance or some talent you may have on social media, we got to make sure that that's earned. You know, we're not forcing any of these kids to actually earn anything. They want this money, they want that money, they want this contract, they want that car. Well, now you have obligations and responsibilities to hold up your end of the bargain and perform. And when they don't perform, they still get the money. What are we doing? That's not reality. We're like the four of us sitting right here. If we're getting paid to do a job, do we just decide to say, I don't think we're going to do it and expect to get paid? No, that's not how it works.
Yeah, Tom, I think that what happened with the basketball player Rob Wright at Baylor, which didn't get as much publicity because it was right around the time Nico stuff happened. But
yeah,
I agree with you. I think the Nico situation is going to lead to some change, some needed change. I think some of those situations with a very high-profile player probably needs to be a quarterback on a really good team. That probably needs to happen for there to be some change here in the future.
Yeah.
So, I mean, kind of thank goodness his people around him were idiots.
Well, I'll tell you, Jerry, you and I have worked together for a long, long time, and we place a very high premium on critical factors that have nothing to do with physical ability. And in the 2023 class, I thought Nico, talent-wise, on physical ability, was a top 5 overall player. We ranked him at 23.
Yeah.
Because you could see it coming a mile away. This was inevitable, particularly with this particular individual. And so when something like this happens, it's a lesson in the open market. It's a lesson in capitalism. And now somebody on the player side has gotten burned, and everybody else better start paying attention. And the representatives, and I use that term uber loosely, none of these guys are accredited. They're not certified. Some of these guys are asking 20, 30% when that's absolute highway robbery. And again, you look at a certified agent in the NFL, there's a cap on it. Okay. And we don't have any of that. So now you got family members, representatives relaying all of this bad information. Why do you think these kids make bad choices? And by the way, now with the pay cut that he just took, wait till Nico sees his taxes in California.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait till that shows up in the check.
Or does it? Yes. Hey, Tom, I wanted to ask you, I don't think we may have talked once since the end of the Texas season. Texas about to transition from Quinn Ewers to Arch Manning. Kind of where do you see Texas right now, and where do you see the couple of the key areas that it's going to take for them? And I say get over the hump. And when I say get over the hump, go from being a Final Four team to a national champion.
Well, I think they've got the quarterback lined up in the perfect position to succeed because of how they managed it, the blueprint that they set forth, how they executed it, not throwing him to the wolves, spoon feeding him. And then all the while the pressure's not on him, the roster over the course of 2.5 years has been significantly upgraded. So now he steps into a situation, and you could not ask for a better one. I think that the addition of the threat of the quarterback run at any time is going to be very problematic for the opposition. because he is dynamic in that regard. So I love where they're at, because I think that they managed it so well and they set themselves up for success. Now, obviously in the offensive line, they're going to have some new faces. I think I had said this to you guys. I think you have to go back almost 24, 25 years for the last first round draft choice in the offensive line at the University of Texas, which is just head scratching. All right. Well, now we're going to see that, but now you got to replace that guy. And I think that's where the competitive depth through recruiting, through the transfer portal, is where Sark has done a good job. I think the other thing too, to get over the hump, the one thing that I have seen is the biggest difference in this Texas program as of late, really since Sark took over, is there seems to now be an edge and a chip on their shoulder and leadership, and they've had a taste of it and they don't want to go back the other direction. And I think that's the type of momentum and the quarterback play that can fuel getting over that final hurdle. Now, obviously, we all know it's more difficult now than ever. I don't care if you're Texas, if you're LSU, if you're Alabama, if you're Georgia. If you're going to have a significant roster turnover that we see now throughout college football, it's more difficult to build chemistry. It's more difficult to adhere to your principles and your foundational pillars that you want to recruit towards, because you have such a turnstile and a revolving door each and every offseason. So I think the biggest challenge for all teams, not just Texas, is how do you create that culture and maintain it when you don't have the same guys for 4, in most instances 5 years running, and that's gone now. And I think that creates huge challenges, and you got to be more careful than ever in how you evaluate not just the player, but the person. If you're going to go fishing in the portal, you better find out why that guy's in the portal and if he fits with what you're going to do. Because as Nick Saban said on his very first game day show in Ireland, you can pay all the guys you want, but if you pay the wrong ones, you're SOL.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yep.
Hey, I got to ask you, you cover the ACC, and I'm a little intrigued by what you think of that league right now. And what I mean by that is there are really two teams that made the playoffs last year, Clemson and SMU.
Yep.
Right. SMU, kind of an upstart program. Rhett Lashley's got his quarterback back. He's trying to build through the portal as well. Clemson, Dabo's finally got a quarterback again and has finally hit the portal.
Yep.
But where are teams like Miami? What about Florida State? Are they going to be a bounce back team this year, perhaps? Syracuse, was that a one-hit wonder for them this year? What's your overall take on the ACC, Tom? Just to give people that are college football fans generally a sense of that league for next year.
Yeah, top to bottom, everybody talks about the strength of the SEC, obviously, and with validation. And I think sometimes the Big Ten, particularly last year, gets a little overstated. Outside of Ohio State, really in Penn State, top to bottom, the league wasn't very good. I think it was a little bit more comparable to the ACC than it was the SEC. What the ACC needs is they need to have their marquee blue bloods continually play like it every year. Miami and Florida State and Clemson, okay? And I would even throw in there, because they're capable of it, I would throw in there NC State and North Carolina. They need those teams to be, 10 plus win teams every year. And they're capable of that. There's no question of it. And then what you've got to have is your middle third and your bottom third all be bowl teams, all be, 7+ win teams, which they've shown they can do that. But I thought last year, for example, Syracuse, Fran Brown inherited a roster that on defense was pretty damn good. And then they recruited some pretty good players, and they hit on a quarterback. Well, that changes everybody's fortune. So, they got off to a start there that was not a lot of people saw coming. Now, can they do it again without that quarterback? And the thing is, they need to. They have to be able to pull that off. The SMU thing to me, guys, is I think the golden gem for the conference to rely on a year in and year out program in university that has so much money and is willing to spend it on football that they could be up there and compete with the likes of a Florida State or a Clemson or a Miami year in and year out, because they're funded in a way to be able to do it. And they've got a situation in the Dallas Metroplex where, let's just say they miss out on some guys that they really liked in high school. Well, guess what happens a year or two? Those guys start hopping in the portal, and guess where they're going to go, and guess who's got money. And so I think that sets up the ACC as another contender for the playoffs each and every year that nobody saw coming. And I think that was something that has kind of maybe helped bridge that gap while Florida State took a dip. Miami's going to figure out what life's like without Cam Ward. I saw Miami last year, guys. I thought if Cam Ward wasn't playing for that team, they would have been 6-6.
Yeah.
And so they got players, but those players got to start playing to the level of their ability.
Hey, Tom, last thing I have for you, because you brought it up, what's the first thing you're going to ask Bill Belichick? You have a question in mind for him? And I'm not deflated footballs, anything, or is what are you going to ask him?
I'm really, to be honest with you, I'm going to ask him about his adjustment and the day-to-day of the things that are on his plate that you have to do that you never, ever, ever even imagine in professional football, right? Because it's not, let's say that this was Bill Belichick, but it's college football 15 years ago. We're having an entirely different conversation.
Yeah. Right.
He jumped into college football at the worst possible time. And how you navigate that, how you manage that, I think is going to be fascinating. I mean, they've had a pretty significant exodus out of there post spring. And there's probably a lot of guys that are leaving there that don't particularly enjoy being coached hard, which is unfortunate because that's part of the problem of our sport. You know, you can't coach anybody now without hurting their feelings and then picking up their ball and going home.
I'm intrigued whether that's going to be a positive experiment or a failed experiment.
I don't know if there'll be any gray area. I think it's going to be one or the other. It's either going to be disastrous or the guy's going to pull off one of the greatest deals in the game. And you know our company, guys. We're going to treat them like we treated Colorado the last 2 years. They are going to play on every primetime window they can put them in. I promise you.
Yeah. We'll see if they can get the ball downfield with quarterback. They got Alabama quarterback from Major Applewhite.
Yeah, and I actually had two of that guy's games on midweek Sunbelt games. Good player. I don't know if he's an elite player, but if that's the guy they targeted, what does that tell you about the current roster of quarterbacks that they have right now? And Bill Belichick will tell you as well as anybody else, you can talk all you want about Super Bowls and rings and the process and all that. You don't have a quarterback, you don't have a chance.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, Tom, what you said earlier, it just struck me, because I was thinking North Carolina went to Duke. How crazy is it that the Duke quarterback you get out of the portal made probably more than 3 basketball starters at Duke? I never thought I'd see that day. That's where we're at in college sports.
And you know what? And he better start playing like it, because they paid the guy before who we all know very well who they won in spite of, not because of. And they went to him and said, hey, listen, we need a little bit of a return on our investment. And ended up parting ways. Good for Duke to, put their foot down and say, this is what we're doing. But now that other guy, you're coming off of 9-10 win season for Manny Diaz. That guy's got a ton of weight on his shoulders.
And he's making Duke basketball starter money. That's a lot of pressure.
I know. Isn't that crazy? Yep. It's unbelievable.
Tom, thank you so much, buddy. We appreciate you very much. Follow him at Tom Luginbill on Twitter, or X, formerly Twitter. College football analyst, going to see his son play a little football this weekend. Safe travels, Tom.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. Have a great rest of the week. See ya.
You too, bud. Good stuff, Jerry. Good stuff. Thanks for asking him to come on again.
Great dude. A lot of fun, man. We had a lot of fun for working together for about a decade. It was a lot of fun.
We got a lot of questions, super chats to get to. But first, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone about Mint Mobile.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you say data or data? At my house, or at our house, we say data. And for the longest time, I thought paying a fortune on my monthly data plan was just normal. That was until I found out about Mint Mobile and their premium wireless plans that start at just $15 a month. We got my daughter on it, and it is saving us about $150 a month, actually. All plans come with high-speed data, or data, your choice, and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan, and you can bring your phone number with you, along with all of your existing contacts. It's really easy. Ditch overpriced wireless and get 3 months of premium wireless service from Mint Mobile for just $15 a month. No matter how you say it, don't overpay for it. Shop data plans at mintmobile.com/OnTexas. That's mintmobile.com/OnTexas. An upfront payment of $45 for 3-month gigabyte plan. 5 gigabyte plan is required. It's equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only, then full price plan options available afterwards. Taxes and fees are extra. See Mint Mobile for details. Again, check out mintmobile.com/OnTexas.
And I'm going to tell everyone out there today about Own Well. For you homeowners out there, you're probably in the same situation that I'm in. Property taxes continue to rise and rise and rise with absolutely no relief in sight. And let's face it, owning property comes with plenty of challenges as it is. Overpaying on property tax shouldn't be one of them. But did you know that you can fight your property taxes and save thousands of dollars every year? And Ownwell believes that when it comes to paying property tax, you should only pay what's fair. You can sign up in under 3 minutes, and their local team of experts and cutting-edge technology can start saving you money with no upfront cost. It's not fun to fight them by yourself, and I can tell you that based on my own personal experiences. The whole protesting process is, well, it's a pain in the you-know-what. So put property tax money back in your pocket in just minutes. Ownwell handles everything from start to finish, and they deliver top-notch results. The best part is there's no upfront cost. You only pay if you save. 86% of Ownwell's customers received a reduction with average customer savings of a little over $1,100. Now, the deadline to protest is May 15th for most counties, so save money on your property taxes with Ownwell. Sign up in less than 3 minutes and start your protest today at ownwell.com/OTF. That's OWNWELL.com/OTF. Okay, as I said, we have super chats. We have questions. So we're going to get into both here. We're going to start with Taylor Johnson. Thank you, Taylor. Watched Gruden's quarterback class with Quinn. I was impressed with Quinn's thought process and football IQ. Gruden, well, he's a bit of a nut, but he's very informative.
He is a nut, man. But I will tell you that. So I watched that episode with Gruden. Quinn came across very Quinn-like. It wasn't anything surprising to me as far as that. I feel like the video that I like the best, Jerry, of John Gruden of late, he gets gear from a lot of different teams, and he goes through them and talks about it and stuff like that. Well, Texas sent him a gift box that he unboxed all this gear that Sark and the guys, equipment manager, sent him. And he literally, one thing about Gruden that people maybe underestimate, he's a little bit of a football historian.
Yes.
He may have rattled off 30
that was insane.
former, you agree with me? 30 former Texas football players without ever repeating a single player. I remember Jamal Charles and, this guy, Steve McMichael. And it was a fun little, 2-minute vignette, I guess, that gave you a sense that he really appreciated Longhorn history. It also makes you think that maybe one day he might have been the Texas head coach had Red McCombs had anything to say about it, by the way. I don't know if people remember that or not.
Oh, yeah.
Back when Matt Brown was let go, Gruden's name came up in part because Red McCombs, I think, would have written that check. So anyways, I thought the Quinn Ewers Barstool segment was really good too.
Yeah, I agree. All right, super chat here from Longhorn Nation. And Longhorn Nation says, Colin Simmons reminds me of Von Miller. Not as tall as most defensive ends, but got that elite bend and speed around the edge and underrated strength.
That's what his D-line instructor, Brandon Tucker, who's got all the Texas guys in the draft this year, plus Jalen Walker, a few others, Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant. That's what he said last Friday on Coffee and Football, if you didn't get a chance to see that segment, if y'all missed that show, go back to last Friday. Brandon Tucker, one of the top D-line trainers in the game, we had him on, and he compared him to Von Miller. That's a really, really big comparison. And for the Texas fan base and for Steve Sarkisian, everybody's hoping that comes true. But I will say this. I talked to somebody last night, and it's at the point where he's been so good this spring at Texas. They're just like, take 2 reps and sit on the sidelines and watch, man. We don't want anything bad or dumb to happen here. He's been that good this spring to where it's almost like the Ricky Williams spring, right? With Mac. Hey, get you a couple of carries, no contact, go stand on the sidelines. That's how good Colin Simmons has been.
And go ahead.
And I'm not saying he's going to win the Heisman because the offensive players win the Heisman, but I'm here to tell you I'm not going to be shocked if he's not the best defensive player in college football next year.
That's one of the reasons why reinforcing the defensive front just allows them to be a little bit more edgy on pass rush opportunities for guys let the big dogs eat is what they say. So that's great to hear, Jerry.
All right, our next
It's
one.
still a little tingle down my spine. Just for the record, I was like, hey, I like that. I like the sound of that.
Our next super chat comes from Tanner, and Tanner says, "Good morning, fellas. I'm so excited for the draft. Do y'all have a favorite Longhorn drafted memory?"
Bobby's going to have better ones than mine, but Luginbill actually led me into a point that was going to be mine, and I was going to say this Thursday night. I can't believe it's almost been a quarter of 25 years since Texas had a first rounder on the offensive line pick. And you think about how many first round picks have been taken out of the state of Texas, high school football and the offensive line in that period of time. And it's pretty embarrassing, honestly, for Texas. That's going to be mine to break the string because that should not happen, should have never happened. Y'all don't want me running down the list of offensive linemen drafted in the first round in the last 25 years, and none of them went to Texas. Mine's tomorrow night, actually.
So mine's going back. I mean, this is going to sound silly, but this was before the draft was even a thing. I grew up in Houston, and when Texas drafted Earl Campbell, or the Oilers drafted Earl Campbell, that was like nirvana for me as an 8-year-old or 7-year-old, however old I was at that time, because I had just seen Earl Campbell play against A&M in College Station the year before and thought he was like superhuman, as young kids do. And then he was coming to Houston. That's my favorite Longhorn draft memory of all time, by far. Because literally to this day, I'm in awe when I see Earl Campbell. I'm like, wow. I would say this, and Blake, bring up that photo,
Yes,
if you don't mind, for Blake Helm, the dad of Gunnar Helm, was nice enough to allow us to use this photo. Think about, this is the Helm kitchen counter that y'all are looking at right now. I don't know how many hats that is, but Tony Hills was talking about how he got a phone call from just a nondescript area code that he had no clue about. This is Gunnar Helm's kitchen counter at his parents' house right now. Literally, that's what they're going through. You got to have all 32 teams, right? Good luck to these guys. I think it's going to be memorable to each of them in their own way. And I'm really happy for them. So, that's where it's at for me. I think that you look at this, it's a culmination of a dream for so many, but it's really just the start too. Now that once this happens, say he picks up a Vikings hat Thursday, Friday, Saturday, whenever, he's got to go make the Vikings. So it's just really the start, but it's also the culmination of a lifelong dream to get drafted in the NFL. So best of luck to all those guys, and it's special for each and every one of them, in my opinion.
Yeah. I want to bring this up. This is what I was getting at, though, Football Junkie. He has been so good. Like some guys, you just got to rep through it. If you have if you're not quite 100%, the level this guy's shown, they're not gonna rep you much. That's what I was talking about, man. I'm just telling you what I was told.
Same
But-
with. I mean, they've played it safe and cautious with Ryan Wingo as well.
Hey, by the way, football junkie, if it's me talking crazy, I'll stick with it because I said he was a must-get recruit and he was a national freshman of the year. So take that and smoke it. All right, next.
Oh, never a dull moment. Slick Rick, thank you for your super chat. You put it in about the same time Tony was leaving. If you want, I can save it to next week, or you can put in a different one and we can get to that. Just let me know which one you would prefer. But we do appreciate your support. And then Jack here with another super chat says, given the Manning development philosophy, do you think that Arch would have come to Texas if we didn't have Quinn?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
I think he wanted to be coached by Sark and Milwee and wanted to go to the University of Texas.
Yeah,
But he was always looking. It's clear that Arch wanted an academic profile school. Texas sits that in that category, in my opinion. Okay, and he wanted to be coached by a coach that had a tremendous resume of developing quarterbacks. There wasn't another school in that category. I mean, Georgia is kind of a good school, but it didn't have that history at quarterback. The head coach is a defensive coach. Alabama had a history at quarterback, but it had been because of Steve Sarkisian and Lane Kiffin. And even though you're playing for potentially the greatest coach of all time, and Nick Saban, Texas was the offensive answer to that and the academic answer. I think he was headed to Texas because of that, not necessarily because of Quinn Ewers and where he was at. That just happened to be part of the decision. I think the Manning family, one of the things they did is they took all that other stuff out of it. And it was more about, son, where do you want to go to school? You know, where do you want to go develop? Where do you want to be when it's a Monday in the middle of February? You know, not necessarily where you want to be when it's on game day, because wherever you're at on game day is going to be great. But where do you want to be when you're not, you know, when you have to go in to do workouts and learn the game and things like that, go to class. And he wanted to go to Texas. Yeah. I don't know if Quinn Ewers being there impacted it much at all, if any.
I think one of the other cool things about his recruitment was obviously they did it the right way, right? They've been through it. That, you know, it really probably came down to Texas and Alabama. And I think there was maybe a little, hey, Nick Saban, you know, look what Alabama program, boom, boom, boom. And one of the cool things I've heard out of that recruitment was that Nick Saban was asked, can you guarantee us you'll be there? If Arch were to pick Alabama, can you guarantee she'll be there the whole way through? He said, no, I can't. I mean, look, Nick Saban gets a lot of praise, and some people talk negative about him, but Bobby, that would have been a tough one to say, oh yeah, I'm going to be there. If he wants to come on in. He didn't do it, but now he's had a long relationship with Archie Manning too.
Yeah. So
he did not lie to try to get the kid on campus. I'll say that. Mr. Talk Too Much. Yes, Derek Cooper's coming in. We hit that at the beginning of the show. If you missed it, Chaminade Madonna, 5-star in my opinion, 5-star running back prospect out of Chaminade Madonna in Hollywood, Florida, coming in with his mom and stepdad this weekend. First ever visit to Texas. We'll see if Texas can secure an OV after this visit. They've had pretty good success securing OVs with these kids that have come in on their first unofficial visits, and there's going to be 10 plus first-time visitors this weekend. And I think some of those guys already have official visits set, that I think they secure those official visits. And I think you're going to see 2-3 kids add official visits, maybe Camden Hamil, the corner out of Arizona. We'll see about Brody Jennings at Sandal, at Mandarin, teammate of Jamie French, a Michigan corner commit. We'll see on him a couple of D linemen that are coming in that don't already have OVs set. It's a big recruiting weekend, not for highs or private commitments or anything. It's a big weekend to secure your place with these kids from the Southeast region or out of state that you haven't had on campus before.
Bobby, before we get to our last couple of questions of the day, I'm going to let you tell everyone one last time about Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm.
Yeah, absolutely. Adam Lowy. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, only place you need to call Adam Lowy over at the Lowy Law Firm. They will give you a free, no strings attached consultation to determine whether or not they think you might be due some level of compensation. Again, if you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident, give them a shout. LowyLawFirm.com. Adam, thank you. Just more than 20 years of experience doing it in and around the state of Texas. Again, that's LowyLawFirm.com. Thanks, Adam.
Hey, we have a good question I want to answer here. What?
Go ahead.
I started this question. Jackson Miles asked, this is actually a really good question because recruiting is changing. Does team recruiting rankings matter if you get the guys right? So I think Bobby and I have always been the same on this. It absolutely matters because if you look at the team recruiting rankings for the last 15, 17, 18 years in college football, Alabama under Nick Saban, Ohio State, Georgia under Kirby. Well, that's how many of your national championships? I mean, and then Urban at Florida was signed in classes. Miami back in the day. Bobby Bowden. Matt Brown only had one national number one class, but tons of top 10 classes. So, yeah, I think it matters. I still think it matters because the more shots on goal with big-time players you get, the more talented the team you're going to have. But I will say this, the way recruiting classes are calculated now, Bobby, versus when you just went back in your years, you or Tom Lemming or whoever just looked at the class in its totality. And Bobby Bowden once had a 13-man class. I think it was ranked number one in the country. Now it's more about how many guys you sign because it's a point system, right? So it doesn't matter. Like if Michigan didn't have, I think they had 2 top 10 classes on their team that won a national championship. Now they have, I think, a smaller class, but their hit rate on that class was really high. That class wasn't going to be ranked as high because other teams signed 8 or 9 players more than they did on a class. So it's changed a little bit with the calculations of top classes. But at the end of the day, if you're ranked top 5 in recruiting or right around there every year, you're going to have one of the most talented rosters, and you're giving yourselves enough shots on goal to where you're going to produce what Sark likes to talk about, plus the portal, those 8 to 10 NFL draft picks a year.
I would say that team recruiting rankings do matter. They matter more if you get the right guys and matter more if you get the wrong guys. So that's really a 2-part question, Jackson. Everything else that has come about in college football make me think that team recruiting rankings are less important at some level, including the transfer portal. Jerry just talked about Michigan and how they won a national championship, but they take 5 offensive linemen in the portal that year. Yeah. So, where were they without those guys? And I think that, the recruiting rankings matter because I think it speaks to the depth and quality of your talent on your team largely. As long as people are properly valuing those recruits. For example, Jerry mentioned Miami. Miami used to be the team in the 90s, part of the early 2000s. We talked a little bit about them yesterday. They never had a top 5 recruited class at Miami. But that's because guys like Ray Lewis weren't ranked high.
Right.
And, that Clinton Portis was a 4-star running back that was ranked low. Frank Gore wasn't a top 5 running back in the country coming out. I could go on and on. Cortez Kennedy, I think his other offer was like Arkansas State. So a lot of that has to do with whether or not the data you're getting in equals the output. And sometimes you get bad data. Bad data was Nico Iamaleava, for example. How bad does it hurt when your quarterback's actually not that good and he's ranked that highly? I think, for example, that hurt Texas with Garrett Gilbert. Had a highly ranked recruiting class because they thought they had their future at quarterback, and he ended up not being the future at quarterback. So that hurt that class overall. It's what you put into the data, and if you think that it's truly a number one ranked class, I will say this for Texas, based on what I'm being told, Texas signed a number one ranked class last year. The data is good.
Yeah,
I'll put it that way based on just what I'm hearing right now.
By the way, it's being brought up in the chat about the A&M number one class. Here's the crazy thing about that class. Well, they had some bad character guys in that class. They're still going to have 6, 7, 8 guys drafted out of that class. They just all didn't play at A&M. That's going to be the crazy thing is that class is actually going to have pretty good draft picks. I mean, Stewart's about to be a first rounder. Walter Nolan's a first, second rounder. They're going to have 7, 8 guys drafted out of that class probably at the end of the day or playing the NFL out of that class. But had some real holes in the character part of it.
Hey Jerry, I want to finish on this one if you don't mind. Rogers, because he's been a former Longhorn. Syracuse entertained Jonte Cook, the former Texas wide receiver who had transferred to Washington, and a Georgia DL or LB, I think. Talk about Jonte Cook, because before we went on the air this morning, we were talking about what's going on with Jonte Cook. Give people a behind the scenes what you're hearing right now from colleges.
Yeah.
How they're treating Jonte Cook right now from a scholarship / NIL perspective, what have you.
Yeah, so the thought is with a lot of these colleges, they're going to end up going to 105 scholarships, right? And what some of these colleges, not necessarily the blue bloods, are thinking is if there's 2 or 3 or 4 kids like Jonte who are very talented but have had some issues, that, you know what, if we go to 105 scholarships, we'll bring this guy in. And we're going to set, here's your boundary, man. Here's your boundaries. Boom. This is a one chance at this type of situation. One chance to kind of save yourself, rebound, get control, go show all that talent you have. You have one shot at this for us. No second, no third chances. But once it goes to 105 scholarships, there's some schools that are going to take 3 or 4 kids like that. And if it works out and they hit on one, great. If not, oh well. They don't really lose anything by doing it. That's kind of wrong or right. That's kind of the thinking right now for some of the colleges, not the blue bloods, as those scholarships, if assuming they increase to 105. A few of these kids that have had some issues, they're going to give a chance. But this isn't like you're going to mess up and still be here. This is it. You mess up once, you're gone. But we're giving you a chance here because, Bobby, it's interesting. If you hit on one of those guys, if you take 3 or 4 of those guys and you hit on one and you're not the blue blood and you can't get all the top guys you want because of NIL, then it's not a bad strategy as long as it doesn't mess up your locker room in any shape or form if you're already a really good team.
Fair enough.
We got 2 super chats before we get out of here. The first one from It's 420 Somewhere. Thank you for the super chat. Good morning, OTF. Thank you guys for the amazing coverage. Blake, is Flores the most clutch hitter right now? Also, can we get a post-weekend baseball show called Clear the Bases? Maybe when regionals start. Maybe we can do that when spring football's died down. Regionals, get going. Maybe we can look into that one for sure.
Is Flores their most clutch hitter, though?
Man, I mean, he's definitely clutch. I'd argue Rylan Galvan, though. And maybe that's just because I just think he's a phenomenal player, defensively and offensively. But I think you could go with him. Even Mendoza, I think you could make an argument for. And again, I think you could make one for Flores as well. But I think if I had to pick one, my answer would be Rylan Galvan. So it's just me. And then Jerry.
Are you partial to catchers? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it must be. I didn't even think about that, Bobby, but it may because of Colt I am. I don't know. I never really put that connection together until you just said that. So maybe that's what it is. Then Jerry, Seth wants to know your thoughts on the women's basketball portal additions / losses.
Yeah, so look, the girl from Arizona, I think, is a really good player. She's going to give you scoring, rebounding with athleticism. She was one of the top, 10, 12 players in the women's portal, Blake. I thought she was a really good addition.
Yep.
The 6'5" girl from FAU's, I think is originally from Sweden. I think it's a good off the bench piece. I think role player there. And I'm kind of waiting to see what else happens. Look, I think the return of if Layla Filia returns healthy, I think that's almost better than anything Texas could get out of the portal at guard, with maybe the exception of one or two, right? The girl that went from Notre Dame to TCU is a tremendous player. Full Wiley at South Carolina, I think is going to light it up somewhere. But that's going to be the key for me is I think Madison Booker needs that scoring sidekick is what she really is. I think Jordan Lee has a chance to do that in year 2. I think she's really talented shooter scorer. And so she'll be better in year 2, and she'll play more minutes with Shea Holly graduating. I think Jordan Lee will play more minutes. But I think that sidekick scorer shooter next to Madison Booker is going to be really key for the team next year. With the return of Harmon and Bree Preston in year 2, I wonder how much you're going to see those two play together and play a little faster at times. You can't do that for heavy minutes, but you can do that in spurt minutes, I think. So I think Vic's going to have maybe more roster versatility next year. And I'm interested to see how he puts it all together. I think they've done a really good job maximizing what they have. Because, again, this past season, if you'd have told me before the year that Layla Filia, who was first-team All-Big Ten, average 18 a game, wasn't going to play all year due to injury, and Aaliyah Moore wasn't really going to play much of the year due to injury, I wouldn't have had Texas in the Final Four. I wouldn't have thought they had enough offensively to get there. They really maximized that team.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football, presented by Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. I want to thank Adam, along with Cure Hydration, Mint Mobile, and Ownwell, all for sponsoring today's show. Of course, thank you all for tuning in as well. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell so you're notified anytime we go live, post content, whatever it may be. And right now during portal season, there's no better time to subscribe and ring the bell, like I said. And Bobby, what can folks expect later today?
Yeah, absolutely. Later today, we have State of the Program. Myself, Jerry, CJ Vogel, going to hit it pretty hard. Football Theory, we're moving up to today with Rod Babers and Jeff Howe so that we can make way for tomorrow night, where we're going to be on live following the NFL draft. Also, we'll have our regular live stream tonight at 7 o'clock. If there is any portal news, by the way, there may be some happening later in the day, not necessarily a boom per se, as we like to call it here, but there may be some other jockeying, I guess is the best way to put it. Make sure you check us out either on one of those live streams or at ontexasfootball.com. Right now, that's where we're putting all the information we have up as soon as possible on these players.
And I would say we're monitoring a couple things in basketball as well. That portal closed the last night at 11:59. I think you'll start to see some activity again now that the guys on your roster are locked in. Nobody jumped in the portal, and now I think you could see another addition. We'll see what happens.
All right. And Rob, I did put up your super chat a minute ago about you were 25 when Earl signed, lived in League City, and bought Oiler season tickets. So I did.
So did my dad. My dad did the same thing. He bought season tickets.
I think Rob's been to a few games at CC Clear Creek ISD Stadium, the old one, not the new one, not Challenger, but the old one.
All right, guys. Well, we'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. So for Bobby Burton, Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then.
Hook 'em horns.